told you so. I'm a kid in the candy store with the leather on the denim. I ain't the cure, I'm the venom. If you wanna find me, find the taillight. Something's coming in, you're gonna wanna take a red eye. It's time to go. It's time to go. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready.
Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat sa mga parte ng mundo kayo naroroon. Ito po yung lingkod Paglinawan ng Maestro na bumabati sa inyo sa isang napakagulong Pasko na mukhang darating. At dahil po sa kaguluhan ng mga nangyayari sa aking kapaligiran ay napilitan ho ako magpatina ng buhok. Ayan mga kabansa. Bakit magulo? Ayan. Dahil mga kabansa, ating tatalakayin ngayon as a result of misplaced national priorities. Ito ang title ng episode natin ngayong araw na ito. Episode 26, The Marawi Attack. At alam po ninyo mga kabansa, nung si Vice President Misplaced noong bandang 1984 ay barilin ng isang would-be assassin, mga kabansa. At siya'y dinala sa ospital at natatanda ko noon si Police General Carrigal ang unang dumulog sa kanya at sabi ni Vice President Misplaced, "General, what is happening to our country?" Ayan. So, ito po ngayon, petsa 2023 ng Desyembre 3. Ito po ang video kung ano ang ating pinatutungkulan sa broadcast na ito. Let us play the video of Kidlat News Channel.
Hindi bababa sa 4 ang naiulat na namatay habang higit 4 na po ang sugatan matapos pasabugan ng Mindanao State University o MSU Main Campus sa Marawi City linggo ng umaga December 3. Ayon sa pulisya, nagsasagawa ng Sunday worship sa loob ng Dimaporo Gymnasium ang ilang Catholic students ng nasabing universidad nang bigla itong pasabugan. Kasunod nito, mariing kinundena ng pamunuan ng MSU ang naturang karahasan na kumitil sa buhay ng mga inosente nilang mag-aaral. Gayon din ang pagkondena ni Marawi City Mayor Majul Gandamra sa bombing incident. Aniya, hindi dapat pinahihintulutan ang pagyurak sa magandang relasyon sa pagitan ng Muslim at Christian communities sa nasabing syudad. Nagpaabot na rin ng pahayag ang Bangsamoro government na mariin ding kinokondena ang masalimuot na nangyari. Hinimok naman ni Chief Minister Ahod Ibrahim ang mga otoridad na magsagawa ng masusing investigasyon upang mahuli ang mga salarin ng karumal-dumal na krimen. Samantala, binisita naman ni Lanao del Sur Governor Mamintal Bombit Alonto Adjong Jr. ang Amay Pakpak Medical Center kung saan dinala ang mga sugatang biktima ng pagsabo. Tahasan din niyang kinokondena at hinihimok ang sektor ng seguridad na aksyonan ang pag-iimbestiga sa nasabing trahedya. Kasalukuyan pang inaalam ng Philippine National Police o PNP kung improvised explosive device o granada ang ginamit ng mga hindi pa nakikilalang salarin sa pagsabo.
Ang nangyari sa Marawi noong nakaraang linggo cannot be dismissed as simply an isolated incident na caught everybody by surprise. Alam po ninyo, walang iba kundi si Chief of Staff General Romeo Browner himself gave a most intelligent analysis. The bombing could be a retaliatory attack as it had followed operations against local extremist groups in the southern region of Mindanao. Browner disclosed that the military had killed a senior operative from Abu Sayyaf, a group notorious for kidnapping and piracy that has aligned itself with the Islamic State. The general added it had also conducted 2 operations in Mindanao during the weekend against Dawla Islamiyya Mautik, a group that joined Hapilon in taking over Marawi in 2017. Natatandaan niyo ba yung siege of Marawi? Seeking to turn into a Southeast Asian wilayat or governorate or Islamic State o yung di kayo tinatawag na ISIS na caliphate. Ang obvious question po in the light of such operations, bakit walang antisipasyon ng RIDO o RESMAC in Tagalog if a major leader of the terrorists was indeed slain? Why was there no precautionary measures conducted by the police and the military covering the civilian population, especially the Christians in a predominantly Muslim-populated province, barring any collateral escalation? Wala po ito. Ay, hindi ko maintindihan kung marami yatang natutulog sa pansitan, mga kabansa. Dito sa gobyerno ni President Marcos Jr. This is a 2020 failure of military, police, and civilian intelligence. Obviously, ang security sector po natin ay natutulog sa kanilang trabaho. They are sleeping on the job. And here is the analysis. Kayo ba may mga papel at ballpen na hawak? Take note dahil we will feature today for more than 18 minutes po ito. Ang opinion at analysis ni Romel Banlawi, ang number 1 expert natin sa anti-terrorism. Ito po si Romel Banlawi.
Prevent from mounting another violent incident.
Right, Dr. Banawi, we're going to talk about that in a bit because you recently wrote about how it is imperative to be vigilant at this point, even if the attacks are decreasing or are waning. But we're going to talk about that in a bit. First, I want to talk to you about ISIS and its strength the world over. Talk to us about that. How strong are they really currently?
Well, worldwide, ISIS worldwide is also suffering a lot of setbacks, and it's a declining threat. But although it is a declining threat, they still have followers worldwide. There are still a lot of ISIS provinces willing to mount violent attacks on behalf of ISIS. And in the case of the Philippines, the Islamic States with strong links with the Islamic State Philippines is the Islamic State Khorasan, based in Afghanistan. And the Islamic State Khorasan was responsible for funding the 2017 Marawi siege and specifically the 2020 Hulo Cathedral suicide bombing. So if you will base if we will base the situation on the report of the Global Terrorism Index in 2023, there are still terrorist organizations that can mount havoc. We still have the Islamic State, we still have the Al-Qaeda, we have the Hamas, and we have the Hezbollah. So there are still several sources of terrorist threats, but the one operating very strongly in the southern Philippines is the Islamic State followers. And as I said, they have already made a new name for themselves, and they call themselves as part of the Wilaya Philippine Dawliya Islamiyah.
Talk to us about where the vulnerability lies, Dr. Banlawi. You talk about threats, you talk about the strength of ISIS, but what makes the Philippines vulnerable to the snares of ISIS?
Well, the Philippines remains to be vulnerable because there are still few remnants with the strong intention to wreak havoc. They also have existing capabilities to wreak havoc. They are just waiting for the right opportunity to mount attack. and also waiting for financing of their activities. And right now, there's no doubt that these groups are having difficulties because of the strength of our law enforcement authorities in countering the financing of terrorism, and at the same time, involvement of various players like local government authorities and civil society in the countermeasures, especially the National Action Plan to prevent and counter violent extremism. So they are having difficulties because of that environment. But at the same time, terrorist groups like ISIS Philippines are complex adaptive system. They are to adapt to the worst situation. They are very resilient. And the December 2 incident, I consider it as a watershed event, because they were able to mount another big violent attack since 2020. That the last time that they mount attack was in Hulo in April 2020 during the pandemic, and this is their first violent attack in the post-pandemic pandemic period. So I consider this as a watershed event.
Yeah, so talk to us about that period between both attacks. What was happening then, and what made the situation prime this time for them to launch another attack?
Well, since the enactment of anti-terrorism law of 2020, the Philippine government was able to broaden their countermeasures, not only to run after perpetrators, but also to run after the support network responsible for several violent incidents in the Philippines. They are running after the financier, the trainers, the organizers, the instigators, the provider of some logistics. So the law empowers the law enforcement authorities to have better ways in countering them, but at the same time they learn lessons from their difficulties. From April 2020 to December 2022, they were able to develop innovative ways to attack. And in my analysis of the situation, I think they saw the window of opportunity to attack Marawi to attack MSU yesterday because of two important considerations. One, law enforcement authorities and even me are celebrating about our achievements in countering them, because we have seen a lot of surrenderers from Abu Sayyaf Group, from Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters, from former members of Mauti Group, and even Ansar Khalifa Philippines. They are surrendering. There are many followers leaving terrorism behind and walking away from the use of violence, and we are celebrating from that. And at the same time, the armed forces of the Philippines are now focusing their attention on external security matters, especially the protection of our territories and sovereign rights in the West Philippine Sea. So our attention was focused away from internal security, and the Islamic State Philippines was able to find an opportunity yesterday to mount attack in two occasions. First, a Catholic mass. So it's very symbolic. They attack a Catholic activity, a Christian activity, and they consider that as the activity of the infidel. And if you will base it from the statement of their so-called spokesperson of Wilaya Philippine Dawlaya Islamiyah, we identified his name as Sheikh Abdullah Al-Ansari. He said that they attacked the church because they were practicing infidel activities, And second, they mounted the attack during the time when the Bangsamoro region is celebrating the National Peace Month, and it's a strong message to the Bangsamoro region and to the Philippines and to the entire region that they are still alive, kicking, and willing to wreak havoc despite their diminished capability and despite their difficulties. So we need to run after those remaining remnants, because they have the intention to mount havoc again. They have the capability to mount violent incidents. The challenge now for the Philippine government and also for the whole of society, the whole Filipino people, is to deny them the opportunity to carry out their malevolent intention.
Dr. Banlawi, talk to us about the possibility that foreigners were used in this attack. Do you have reason to doubt that?
I have a reason to believe that the foreign element must be involved, because local militants cannot mount this kind of violent incidents without the encouragement and financing of foreign elements. And my suspicion is that it's the same network that supported the Marawi siege of 2017 and the series of suicide bombings after 2020. The same network is responsible for the MSU bombing incident yesterday.
Sorry to cut you there, Dr. Banlawi. When you say, I'm sorry, Dr. Banlawi, sorry to cut you there, we're running out of time, but when you say the same network was used, are you pertaining to private armed groups that's still there, that's still operating in the region? And this is the network that they're using. Go ahead.
Right now, they can use the private armed groups because private armed groups can be sources of their weapons. But it's still premature to generalize there, because there are many benign private armed groups in Mindanao. But if you talk about private armed groups associated with the remnants of Abu Sayyaf Group, Ansar Khalifa Philippines, Mauti Group, then they provide the support network. So I'm looking at that angle, that even private armed groups benefiting from violence in Mindanao may be involved. But in my analysis of past incidents, the Islamic State Khorasan was based in Afghanistan, was responsible for the past incidents, and I have reason to believe that they have something to say in the incident that occurred last December 2.
Talk to us about the funding, Dr. Banlawi, and how government will be able to finally choke the funding, choke the resources that's continuing to funnel funds to these groups.
Well, right now, the Philippine government has better capability to counter the financing of terrorism as a result of capacity building and coordination with other international institutions. So we are better equipped now to counter the financing of terrorism, and we have better intelligence sharing now with like-minded states suffering the same problem. So we have a better capabilities now. But the situation yesterday was, I consider it as an exemption to the rule. Because the rule, many are surrendering. Many terrorists are surrendering. Many terrorists are leaving violence behind. They're walking away from the use of violence. But we are talking about few remnants. And if we talk about remnants operating in Lanao del Sur, we are only talking about less than 40 remnants. So now the Philippine government needs to pursue focused military operations and intensified law enforcement operations against these remaining remnants in order to prevent them from wreaking another havoc.
Remnants they may be, but they caused that really tragic event over the weekend. With what you know, knowing what you know, Dr. Banlawi, about how this group operates, talk to us about the planning that was involved here. How tedious was it? How long do you think they sat down and planned this attack?
Maybe this is a long planning, because the last time they mounted the violent incident was in April 2017 in Sulu. And after the passage of the anti-terrorism law of 2020, they have failed to mount violent incidents. In fact, we are monitoring their activities weekly. And from April 17, 2020 to December 1, 2023, they have not conducted any major violent incidents. So I think they just saw an opportunity to mount this incident this time, because they just found it. You know, terrorists are like thief in the night. They are just waiting for the right opportunity, and they saw the right opportunity yesterday.
Yeah, Dr. Banlawi, you said they just saw the opportunity, but what is the messaging there?
the messaging there is that, law enforcement authorities should remain on guard. They should remain vigilant. They should not be complacent, and they should intensify their security measures because the threats are still not disappearing. And if you will look at the security arrangement of the gymnasium, no CCTV. It was an open area. So as a result of the December 2 incident, I think they need to set up more CCTV cameras and to train more people to provide security not only to the students and teachers of Marawi State University, but also of the whole city. Because right now, the Marawi remains to be vulnerable to threats because there are still grievances. There are still, issues that have not been settled. And if we will broaden our discussion. There are still many issues surrounding the Bangsamoro region, especially the decommissioning process. If you will look at the data, Carmina, the whole combatants of the MLF should have been put under decommissioning process.
There you go. And thank you, Carmina Constantino, for this ANC News interview of Romel Manlawi, an expert, the Philippines' top expert in anti-terrorism. Let me just summarize the points. Number one, he said that this is a watershed of security. No? Number two, and he said why, because there are still many Islamist remnants, despite many who have already surrendered because of the institution of the bar. Number three, there is an obvious shift from internal security to external threat na lisyaho ang atensyon ng mga security forces natin to something else, no? And we will discuss that later. Number four, saw an opportunity to stage an attack. Very symbolic dito, yung atake nila was to a Catholic or Christian activity. Number five, marami pang unresolved grievances from the 2017 siege of Marawi. So, the military, the police, and civilian intelligence should be on their guard. The government should not be complacent, no? At hindi lamang doon sa Marawi State University, kung hindi sa buong city, and in fact, the entire region, for that matter, where these elements and characters are still prevailing to this day. But let me go to even more basic considerations. Dahil, sabi ko nga kanina, misplaced priorities eh. Nasaan ba? Nasaan ba dapat ang atensyon ng ating national security sector? And so, the reasons have been, my reason for this is because I've always been saying na there's handwriting on the wall ever since the Read National Security Template, no? Meron po kaming ginawa, tinulungan namin si National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon during the presidency of President Duterte, at gumawa kami ng, in fact, we documented it in a book. Pero mukha kong iniwan na ito, ginawa na lamang coffee table book ng bagong Pangulo, at ng bagong NSA advisor, The holistic universe involving our national interest has been put on a freezer by the President, who cannot create a long-term strategic and comprehensive plan for Philippines Incorporated, making himself as the gridlock as he compartmentalizes the affairs of government and runs matter reactively on a day-to-day basis. May nagsabi pa sa akin na pag nag-conduct daw ito ng cabinet meeting, ay paisa-isa, yung security sector, nandun, upuan niya yun, yung economic sector, upuan niya rito, yung social sector. Hindi nagkakaroon ng masaganang balitaktakan, ika nga, ng mga ideya. Nandiyan na ho yung September 23 Pulse Asia Survey na nag-disclose na that the most urgent national concern of the public points to the economy. Inflation, jobs, wages, and public order. Law enforcement and safe streets, public order, accounted for 93%. Pero ano ho ang nangyayari? Instead, the Marcos government has reduced national security to the motherhood statement of asserting sovereignty, defending territory against foreigners, that the same survey accounted for only 7%. Tingnan ho natin yung survey na yan. Kaya nga sabi ko, nung mga former telecast ko, it's the economy, stupid. Tingnan niyo kung nasaan yung gera ng mga taong bayan, the People's War. Ayun, nakabalot ng berde. Baka sabihin nyo naman, ni-invento ko lang yan 7%. Tingnan nyo ho kung saan nakapunta ang atensyon ni Marcos dito sa baba na nakabalot ng pula. Ayan, babasahin ko. Defending the integrity of the Philippine territory against foreigners. Ilang percent po lamang? 7%, mga kabansa. Ayan ba tayo ba'y nangangarap dyan? Marcos' focus has been on the modernization of the armed forces and increasing our 5 EDCA bases to an additional 4. Wala naman ang problema dyan. Dahil yan ay maaaring kailangan ng ating military. Pero pagka yan pinagtuunan ng masyadong pansin to the obvious disregard of other necessities and other vulnerabilities, blindsiding our priority to chasing phantom elements and enemies in the South China Sea, kasunod ng diktats ng isang born-again colonial ally. Mga kabansa, hindi na yata tama yan. Nagkakaroon patuloy ng false paranoia against foreign invasion and foreign, intervention. The very graphic from the statement of the President himself. Kaya ako nagtatanong, is this man in his right frame of mind? That the bombing was executed by foreign terrorists sa kanyang, sabay nag-iisip ng kanyang isang bullet after the December 3 bombing? That foreign terrorists have done this? A perception farthest from what has been discovered to be homegrown murderous roots. Marcos even deludes himself calling the inflation, tandaan nyo ba mga kabansa? Yung inflation ay tinawag niya noon, itong inflation that's debilitating our lives right now and stealing from us the joy of Christmas. Ay imported daw itong inflation na ito. Paano mga kabansa? Paano? Kaya ngayon, ang ating foreign policy, nakikinig ba kayo sa Department of Foreign Affairs? Our foreign policy is now being run from the Stanford University's Gordon Nutt Center for National Security Innovation. Can you imagine? By retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Raymond Powell. And this center is heavily supported by the U.S. Navy's Office of Naval Research and funding by the United States government. Kaya sabi ko, this government was caught flat-footed. No? Asan na? Let me illustrate to you. Kasi sinasabi ng spokesman ng National Security Council na wala raw basis yung sinabi ni Romel Banlawi na yung shift ng from internal to external has something to do with what's happening in Marawi. Nasaan? Where was the National Security Advisor Eduardo Anyo? Siya ang President's top intelligence officer. Busy siya inaugurating a building at Pag-asa Island in the Spratlys, some 1,140 kilometers away from Lanao del Sur, the site of the bombing. Anyo was preoccupied feeding frenzy to shame China over conflicts in the South China Sea para ma-reinforce lang yan Raymond Powell's narrative about yet another buzzword yung tinatawag niyang gray zone tactics. Anong threat yung gray zone tactics na yan sa ating security? Dito, 4 na kagad ang patay. Actually, ayaw lang yata ilabas. May nagsasabi na newspaper na 11 na raw hanggang 12 ang namatay dyan sa Marawi. Pero walang confirmation po yan. At itong parrot, itong loro ni Powell na si PCG, J. Tariela, issued this photo. Ayan, yung photo na yan, nakikita nyo. Nakangiti pa silang lahat habang binobomba ang Marawi. Showing Anyo and his loudmouth spokesman Jonathan Malaya with himself at the Pag-asa sortie. Yan ba ho ang being on the job? On the job kayo, shaming China. On the job kayo with your racist tendencies. Wala naman kayo napapakita dyan. Kundi puro yung paranoia ninyo. At hindi lang yun, mga kabansa. Meron pang Christmas convoy to the South China Sea. Na nung una ay pinuhibig. Nagpakitang tao pa itong National Security Council. Wag daw tumuloy. Pero binigyan din ng permiso. Wag lang daw dumaan sa ayungin. At wag lang daw pupunta sa BRP Sierra Madre. As it would not be advisable at for this time for safety considerations. Pero tutuloy sila sa Pag-asa. Pero mukhang na gusto lamang mag-excursion sa El Nido nito mga taong ito. Bakit? Nakita niyo ba yung pagkalaki-laking barko ang kinontrata nila? Saan ang gagaling ang salapi? Saan ang gagaling ang financing nito mga taong ito? The organizers pleaded for permission from the peers. That according to our sources, alam nyo, galing ako sa US. May mga sources sa US. Naibigay na pala yung $5 million foreign donation. Di umano. Part of which was for this project. At hindi lamang yun. Sabi pa nitong Akbayan Party President Rafael David, the convoy will include a mother vessel. My goodness, ang dami yung pera, pero ang daming nagugutom, ang daming naghihirap, ang daming walang trabaho that can accommodate up to 100 people. At bago po itong project na ito, naglipa na yung mga atin ito, billboards nila Gilbert Chodoro, nila Risa Hontiveros, at Manny Pacquiao in Metro Manila. Makakandidato yata na isang banyagang bansa ito para sa ating Senado. Para po sa kanilang pagtakbo sa 2025. Anyway, ito po ang PTV4. At kayo pipihit sa inyong kinauupuan pag narinig nyo ang ibang detalye rito. Ako po'y nagdarasal. Wala sanang mangyaring masama. Wala sanang maaksidente. Wala sanang mabawian ng buhay o masaktan dito sa kalokohan ito ng Christmas convoy. Pakinggan natin ang video.
Puspusan na ang paghahanda ng grupo ng mga sibilyan para sa kanilang 3 araw na Christmas caravan sa West Philippine Sea. Lalahok naman sa convoy ang nasa 40 sasakyang pandagat. Narito po ang report. Para sa atin ito, koalisyon, hindi lamang ang gobyerno ang responsable sa pagbabantay sa West Philippine Sea, kundi obligasyon din ito ng lahat ng mamamayan. Kaya naman sa 10 ng Disyembre, 40 barko ang 3 araw na maglalayag para sa 3 araw na Christmas caravan sa West Philippine Sea. Ang kanilang misyon, magbigay ng kalinga at pamasko sa mga mangingisda na hindi malayang makapaghanap buhay dahil sa pambubuli ng China at sa mga sundalo na nagbabantay sa interes ng Pilipinas sa West Philippine Sea. Ang Atin Ito Coalition ay binubuo ng mga social movements, NGOs, organisasyon ng mga mangingisda, mga kabataan at iba pang civilian groups. Sa ngayon, puspusan ang donation drive ng Atin Ito Coalition para makaipon ng mga regalo para sa mga mangingisda sa West Philippine Sea at sa mga sundalo na nagbabantay sa BRP Sierra Madre sa Ayungin Shoal. Para sa koalisyon, para patunayan sa atin ang West Philippine Sea, dapat ay malayang nakakapangisda ng walang takot ang mga mangingisda. Ang Christmas Caravan ay aprobado ng National Security Council. Gayunman, mayroon lamang ruta na ibinigay ang NSC para sa kaligtasan ng convoy. Papayagan lamang sila sa bukana ng Ayungin Shoal at hindi pwedeng sumampa sa BRP Sierra Madre.
Ang naging usapan na lang is, hindi na sila sasampa, dadaan na lang in the general vicinity of BRP Sierra Madre. And then, papasyalan na rin yung iba't ibang mga features na hawak natin, no? Kung ano man yung mga yon, that's subject to discussion.
Ang dulo ng ruta ay ang Pag-asa Island kung saan iiwan ang mga pamasko na ihahatid naman ng Coast Guard sa mga sundalo sa Ayungin Shoal. Inatasan naman ng PCG ang kanilang sangay sa Palawan na siguraduhin ang seguridad ng mga lalahok sa 3 araw na caravan sa West Philippine Sea. Umaasa ang PCG na maging inspirasyon ang biyahe ng grupo sa West Philippine Sea para lalo pang mag-alab ang kanilang pagiging makabayan. Para sa West Philippine Sea Atin Ito Coalition, ang BRP Sierra Madre ang nagsisilbing marker o palatandaan na ang Ayungin Shoal ay teritoryo ng Pilipinas. Tiniyak ng grupo na hindi ito ang una at huling caravan sa West Philippine Sea dahil ngayon pa lamang ay pinaplano na ang kanilang susunod na paglalayag sa Valentine's. Dominic Almelor, para sa Bayan.
4 po ang puntos ko dito. No? Unang-una, mali po yung sinasabi nila ng mga mangingisda dyan ay hindi makapangisda. No? From the Scarborough Shoal to the Spratlys, wala ho prohibition ng mga fishermen. No? Kaya napakalaking kalokohan. Kumukuha lamang sila ng mga kaliwang mga mamalakayan dyan at pinalalabas nilang may issue. Pangalawa, itong leader nila na isasambulat natin na si Edicio de la Torre, ito po ay isang member ng National Democratic Front. Nakatumbas ng CPP, NPA terrorist group. Pero inaway po nila si Jose Maria Sison at sumali po ito si Edicio de la Torre kay Boy Morales. So malaming tawa ang buhay ni Boy sa kung saan NGO katulad ng Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement, kung ano iba pa. Pangalawa, mukhang porsigido pa ito si Jonathan Malaya. Pa-announce ka pa na reluctant kayo. Pero ikaw ay mukhang mas excited ka pa dito sa convoy organizers. Ano ba role mo talaga dito, Jonathan Malaya? Pangalawa, palayang banggit sa West Philippine Sea. Alam niyo mga kabansa, meron tayong mga claim dyan. Pero wala pa ho tayong titulo. Kaya itong West Philippine Sea, nabunga lamang ng isang executive order ni Noynoy Aquino. Panay ang gamit nila rito, pero ito isang propaganda lamang. Wala hong, there is no such thing as West Philippine Sea. Kung kayo magpapakita sa akin sa International Hydrographic Association na accepted na itong pangalan na ito in designation of a delimitation of a particular part of the South China Sea, hahalikan ko ho ang puwitan ninyo. Pero before that, kayo humalik sa puwit ko. Pang-apat, mali na naman ito, Ayungin, ay teritoryo ng Pilipinas. Alam nyo ba ang Ayungin, mismo Philippine, itong arbitral award na pinangangalandakan nila nagsabi na ito ay hindi pwedeng maging subject ng teritoryo because this is a low tide elevation. Kalimitan ho ng panahon, sa loob ng isang taon, ito'y nakalubog sa dagat. No? Pangalawa, hindi ko ho itatanggi that this is only 115 nautical miles from Palawan, and therefore it's part of what we are claiming to be our exclusive economic zone, and we have sovereignty rights theoretically, no, to exploit the marine resources there. Pero unfortunately, mismo na po sa paragraph 1161 at paragraph 1162, katulad ng paulit-ulit na sinasabi ko sa inyo sa programang ito, mismo PCA Arbitral Award na nagsabi na hindi po pwede po yan na magkaroon tayo ng economic zone dyan. Bakit? Because sabi nga ng award, this is quintessentially a militarized area. Paano ka magbubungkal? Paano ka magpipishing dyan kung it's a militarized area? At sino nag-militarize ng area? Ang Pilipinas po. Ayan, diretsahan na tayo. Paano na-militarize ng Pilipinas ang ngayong insyon? Nagbahura ka dyan. Nagbahura dyan si Erap ng isang BRP Sierra Madre, which is a Philippine Navy boat. At ito ang sanhe kung bakit may standoff dyan. Chinese Coast Guard and military components ng kabilang bansa, no, laban sa ating BRP Sierra Madre. So, itong mga sweeping statements na ito, mga kabansa, ginagawa kayong mga idiot iniinsulto ang inyong kaisipan So anyway, dapat na ginawa dito ng National Security Council, they should have exercised prudence and stuck to their preliminary stand not to allow excursion. This is nothing but an excursion. Passing to troubled waters. At pinagmamalaki nyo pa, karamihan, kabataan. Alam nyo ba, sinusugal ninyo ang buhay at safety ng mga taong yan dahil lamang dito sa propaganda ninyo. Bakit ko na-emphasize sa propaganda? Dahil sa, sa UNCLOS, hindi kasama ang propaganda sa innocent passage, no? That would guarantee freedom of navigation. It is an exclusion. So, the people who are joining this project are in the clear and present danger of what possibly can happen to them in the high seas. No? Alam nyo, yung ruta sa Palawan covers 273 nautical miles. To Pag-asa. 73 miles in excess of the 200 na kine-claim natin na nautical miles to establish a exclusive economic zone. So it's 73. Nasa labas na ng ating claimed EEZ. So anything can happen there. At bago makapunta po dyan, ang isang barko o isang paglalaya, dadaan kayo sa 5 isla ng China, 4 na isla ng Vietnam, at 2 isla ng Taiwan. So imposible po na wala kayong ma-encounter na patrol boats dyan of this specific foreign nation. In my honest opinion, mga kabansa, this propaganda project is nothing but an attempt to fish for a false flag. Again, to blame the Chinese Coast Guard akin to the fake removal of barriers and the improvised collisions that the Philippine Coast Guard has staged, pero lacking in authenticity by their own videos na expose na sila ay nag-ESS lamang dyan. It should be emphasized, ulitin ko, that any act of propaganda aimed at affecting defense of security of a coastal state is considered prejudicial to the peace, good order, and security of another claimant state and is not covered by the principle of innocent passage under Article 19 of the United Nations Convention on the Seas. Lalo-lalo na po na sa isang iglap ay nag-swarming dyan ang Philippine vessels. No? Can we show the video while I'm talking? Kasi walang audio yan eh. So, pwede mapagsabayan ang aking audio. Iko-komentaryohan ko lang. I-play na yung video. Kasabay. Yan, nakita nyo yan mga kabansa. There are also alarming developments in the general area. In a flash of force, China, in less than 2 days, have already swarmed another portion of the Spratly archipelago, the Whitsun Reef, with 135 fishing vessels, kung saan nagpadala lamang ang Coast Guard natin ng 2 Coast Guard ship to disperse them to no avail. O yan, nakikita nyo. From right to left. Alam nyo, sabi ng China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Whitsun Reef is part of China's Nansha Islands, or Spratlys, and the relevant waters in the South China Sea, including the Whitsun Reef and its neighboring waters, have always been an important operating area and shelter for Chinese vessels. So, there is a clear and present danger, mga kabansa, dito sa ginagawa nila. Oh, by the way, 2-3 days ago, in just a flash, nawala yung 135 na yan at 28 na lang ho natira dyan. Ano ibig sabihin? Marami hong assets ang China at mabilis silang makapag-deploy. Isa pang nangyari dito habang binobombang Marawi, mga kabansa. Another proof that the national security priorities of this government is where it is. The Presidential Advisor on Peace Process, Carlito Galvez, has also joined his sparring partner, Special Assistant to President Anton Ladameo, in the signing of a resumption of peace talks with the communist terrorist groups, CPP, NPA, MDF. And they were all the way, mga kabansa. Itong ating leader ng peace process was all the way in Oslo, Norway. All the way in Norway. Tulog sa pansita ng tambalang Galvez at Ladameo, mga kabansa. So nakita nyo na nasa ng prioridad. Nandun sa West Philippine Sea. Nandun sa pakikipagbati sa mga komunista. Wala doon sa inflation. Wala doon sa law enforcement and safety streets na pinakita ko sa inyo kanina. At ano ang nangyari? Ayan na ang nangyari, mga kabansa. At as an offshoot of the bombing, tuloy, nauna pa si Ahud Ibrahim, chairman of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, to issue on Monday, pinag-resign niya yung buong cabinet niya, dyan sa Barm. And the day after the incident, nandun na siya sa ospital at sinasagot lahat ng medical expenses ng lahat ng mga nasugatan at naapektuhan ng pambobomba. Nag-extension ng 25,000 financial aid sa at least 6 victims while admitted at the Amal Pakpak Medical Center at yung inabutan niyang 3 doon sa MSU Infirmary that received 5,000 each for transportation and 14 patients were granted 2,000 for their medical needs. At I am sure lahat ng wala doon na hindi nabigyan ay pinaabutan din yan eventually. At lahat ng namatay, nakako siya ng 50,000 worth of burial assistance to each of the families of the 4 deceased victims. Ngayon, ito ang pinangangambahan ko. Magpapasahan na naman ng blame dito. Government is already washing hands from the responsibilities of bombing. Now, very much after the fact, both military and the police deny failure of intelligence on their part pointing blame at the lax campus security for the terror attack. Ang laki-laki ho na syudad eh. Bago makarating dapat itong mga terrorist sa MSU, dapat nasa libat na ito ng AFP at saka ng mga pulis. Pero ano sinasabi nila? The AFP and the PNP each claimed that they had issued advisories warning their units of a possible attack in Mindanao. No! Issued advisories warning their units. Ako'y naubo dahil this is worse and would tantamount to criminal neglect. If the military and police were indeed informed, why did they set up? Hindi sila nag-set up ng checkpoints to deter terrorist mobility. For all you know, they could have prevented the terrorists from even reaching the Mindanao State University campus. At napakalaki po niyang university campus niya. Akala niyo ba kasi laki lang yan? Baka malaki pa sa UP itong Mindanao State University. Pero bago kayo makapasok dyan, anong dadaanan nyo? Kundi yung syudad. Kundi yung mga lansangan papunta dyan. Walang nangyari. According to BARM spokesman Agim Sinarimbo, text messages about the planned explosion started circulating on Saturday night even among students without specifying the location. So huwag kayong maghugas ng kamay dito. Let us not be technical about the failure of intelligence. So the question is, why was the general public kept out of the loop? Meron na pala kayong, pero mga kabansa, meron isang mas malaki pa tayong problema dito. Eto, dediretsahin ko na, ito patungkol sa Malacanang. Noong December 2, the President was last seen attending a wedding at Bataan and has not been seen yet since. December 3, ikomunikado siya. The executive response was delivered instead by Vice President Inday Sara that day. December 4, his message regarding the bombing in Marawi was on paper through the PCOO. It was even incoherent, blaming foreign terrorists. Halatang hindi siya ang may gawa. Noong December 5, in-announce, 2 days after the Marawi bombing, na siya ay nagkaroon ng COVID-19, tested positive for the 3rd time. But there has been no sign of intimate persons going on quarantine around him. Kung talagang may COVID siya, bakit nag-inaugurate ang First Lady ng isang Japanese restaurant on December 5? Dapat naka-quarantine din ng First Lady, di ba? At lahat ng tao nakapaligid sa kanya. December 6, no word. Text and social media rumors circulating that he did not have COVID at nakakaroon tuloy ng chismis, no? Na siya ay nagkaroon ng overdose of some kind. And Maharlika, yung si Buljakera, started looking for him. Ano ang announcement? December 10 pa raw, mag-a-announce ng end of isolation. Ladies and gentlemen, I am demanding for proof of life. Pero this is the best video that they can show the President. At bantayan nyo sa video to. Imposible ba na siya nagsasalita? Bakit hindi siya magsalita? Bakit miskin naka-face mask siya, hindi siya magsalita? Bakit? Incoherent ba siyang salita? Umurong ba ang kanyang dila? Bakit ito lamang pinakikita ninyo? Just to balance this news and accusation, I am showing you this report from Inquirer RTBN. Play the video, please.
The Presidential Communications Office says President Bongbong Marcos is doing well despite having COVID-19. PCO Secretary Cheloy Garafil mentions that the President is doing well and is set to continue with his scheduled online appointments. In fact, Marcos signed the Public-Private Partnership Code and Internet Transactions Act while in isolation.
Ayan. Hindi ba kaya magsalita sa camera? Asan ang proof of life niya? Si Duterte, inatake ang Marawi. Nasa Russia siya. Immediately, He left Russia. Kinansel niya lahat ang engagement doon. And he came back to the Philippines. And within 36 hours, dito na siya. At nasa Marawi na siya kaagad. Well, anyway, bago tayo magpatuloy, tingnan muna natin ang mga messages ng ating mga tagapakinig. Yan, Fernando Rosales, teka muna. Reynaldo Lazaro, US is the promoter of global war on terrorism, but it uses Al-Qaeda against adversarial states where it runs regime change insurgency. Atin ito, coalition consists of social democrats and former national democrats that turned their backs against US imperialism. Yeah, pero ngayon, mukhang sila'y pinafund ng US imperialism. They are silent on EDCA and raise funding from the CIA. Boss Bell, hello. Pa-shout out po. Okay. Boss Bell. Enrique Abeja, hindi kasi inutos ng kano kaya wala sa priority ang kaligtasan ng mamamayan. Fernando Rosales, lapse in confidential fund spending. Buhay pa ba ang naka-COVID daw? And Rolando Datuig, thank you Roland pala for ordering my books, no? Kapahamakan, excursion, mga isip bata. Marami pa po, pero wala na tayong oras. Pupunta na tayo. At huwag niyong kalilimutan mga kabansa, wala pang gagandang panregalo ngayong Pasko. Kung hindi itong super book, super sale natin, pinabalik po natin yung bundle of 2, my first and second book, for 1,320, and for a bundle of 3, ni-reduce pa po namin ng 100 to 2,200 dahil na kami nakakuha ng discount sa ating courier service. Mga kabansa, ayan po. No? Just text 0917-336-4366. 0917-336-4366. Okay. So, huwag nyo naman kalimutan ang Maestro ngayong Pasko, no? Ito po ang magandang pamasko ninyo sa inyong sarili at pamasko na rin sa akin. By the way, ang susunod po namin mga telecast, pasensya na kayo, our top rating telecast for 3 consecutive Saturdays, no? Will be replaced, which we will premiere. Pero, inanyayahan ko pa rin kayong manood. For the meantime, mga kabansa, habang tayo ay nagsasalita rito, nagkaroon ng breaking news. Eto na ang problema, sinasabi mo. Ano yung sinasabi mong malaya na walang basis yung sinasabi ni Romel Ballawi? Ang galing-galing mo no basis ka dyan. Ano nangyari noong December 8? 1 death, 5 others injured. May bombahan na naman po sa Maguindanao del Sur. Ayan. The blast in South UP occurred while victims were preparing for a family event at Sitio Mafran, Barangay Pilar. The explosion on Friday occurred barely 6 days after Marawi. Ano nangyari kahapon? Kahapon ba ito? Kahapon. Nireport kaninang umaga. Gera na ho. 9 extremists killed in military assault. 9 fighters of the Oya Islamia were killed. Ayan. At napansin ko nito, 5 pangalan ng mga different soldiers. Mga kabansa. Nagpapakitang gilas. Starting with Brigadier General Donald Gumiran, commander of the 602nd Brigade, revealed the attack was carried out after residents of Sitio Mario Wata, Barangay Dalian in Paglinawan town reported the presence of extremists in the area, regrouping and undergoing training to orchestrate explosive attacks with the intention of spreading violence in populated areas. Ayan po, 2 insidenta, isa sa Marawi, isa sa Maguindanao del Sur. At na-capture na daw yung isang suspect, si Jafar Gamo Sultan. na-capture na raw yung isa ng bomba doon sa Marawi. Pero ano ang nakikita nyo rito? Ang nakikita ko rito, wala ang gera sa South China Seas. Ha? Wala ang gera doon. Nasa Mindanao ang gera, mga kabansa. Pero dahil wala na tayong oras, ang pagpupugay at message ng ating pangalawang Pangulo, mga kabansa. Ha? Kabobong pa lang sa Marawi, ito ho ang pinalabas ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Let's play the video.
Mahal kong mga kababayan, Assalamualaikum, madayaw ug maayong adlaw kaninyong tanan. Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. Nakikiramay po ako sa mga pamilya ng mga biktima ng pagsabog ng bomba sa loob ng Mindanao State University sa Marawi City nitong araw ng Linggo. Kasabay nito ay ang ating mahigpit na pagkondena sa nangyaring pagpapasabog at sa mga tao o grupo na nasa likod nito. Ang mga nasawi at mga sugatan ay mga sibilyan. Nakakabahala na ito ay nangyari sa loob ng MSU compound sa isang katolikong simbahan, sa isang bahagi ng bansa na may mahaba at madugong karanasan sa terorismo. Isa itong gawaing mapangahas, ngunit malinaw rin sa atin na isa itong karuwagan. Nananawagan ako sa mga lahat ng Pilipino, lalo na sa mga Mindanawan, na maging mahinahon habang nagsasagawa ng investigasyon ang mga otoridad. Gayunpaman, kailangan rin nating maging maingat at maging mapagmatyag upang mapigilan natin ang mga maaaring susunod pang atake sa mga sibilyan. Alalahanin natin ang ating mga tagumpay para itaguyod ang kapayapaan sa Mindanao at sa buong bansa. Noong 2016, ilang sibilyan din ang nasawi sa pagsabog ng bomba sa Rojas Night Market ng Davao City habang ako ay mayor. Alam natin ang takot at sakit na dala ng karumal-dumal na gawaing ito. Dapat ay maging matatag tayo sa harap ng mga hamon at patuloy na banta ng terorismo. Huwag nating hayaan na magtagumpay ang kasamaan laban sa bayang nagkakaisa para sa kapayapaan. Syukran.
Maraming salamat sa iyo, Vice President Inday Sara, sa iyong responsive, kaagad nandiyan ka. Mabuti na lamang sa oras ng pangangailangan ng sambayan ng Pilipino, nandiyan ka. Pero ito po, ang inyong lingkod, ang Maestro, nagpapaalam na, magkita-kita ulit tayo sa mga susunod na Sabado. Pero iniiwan ko sa inyo ang isang katanungan sa gabing ito. Thank you, Inday Sara. Nasaan ang ating Pangulo? Nasaan si Bongbong Marcos Jr.? Kung alam ninyo, message nyo kami. Kasi hindi namin alam. Nasaan ang ating Pangulo? Maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikinig.
Get ready. Get ready.